So we have Rothmann, just going to give some context, as a hobby kind of thing that we do. It's not the main job, and it's not what pays the salary. But it's still, we work in the brewing industry. So I mostly work for SAP, Cristal, places like that, where we integrate new equipment, do designs, and stuff like that. So that's the day job. And something that came from spinning off from the day job is a little bit of a mask between the craft of nobleman and the day job, right? In terms of what do we want to do for craft, where do we see equipment going for craft? And I'm a little bit dismayed at the fact that we are not progressing when it comes to craft and equipment. We're not really going anywhere. Even when we bought a brewery, I refused to buy a Chinese panel. I bought Chinese stainless. It was a good price. But I had a panel made locally that I could understand and work with for doing temperatures on the heavies and stuff like that. But the world has moved on to that. There's so many other things that is possible, and the thing about it is it can actually be retrofitted onto your brewery. It's not about it has to come with the brewery as it is. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about automation and a little bit of a cross between big commercial industrial and craft beer and what I would like to have out of automation system. Go to the next slide. So I kind of like use the keg washer as an example of what can be done and what is happening at the moment. So we started off with a keg washer like this. It was the last thing we didn't have any money for. So we started off with something like this, where everything was loose with manual hand valves. I had to trust the brewer when he's cleaning kegs that he gets the cycle correct, and there doesn't need caustic in there, and so on. But this is what we started, this is what we could afford. And for a certain size brewery that you don't really need more than this, right? But part of what our situation is that I'm not the brewery very often. I do recipes, I do marketing, I do all that stuff, but the actual brewing gets done by our brewer. So I am relying on him to make sure that he does his job. And our brewer is excellent, and he's never screwed up. So it's good. But this is kind of like the idea of where we are in craft breweries in South Africa. Things that get sold, we have a much bigger affection for stainless steel than we do for software and instruments and stuff like that. But that's kind of what all we can afford. You go on to the next slide. So this is kind of like what we, for brew houses and for fermentation control, this is pretty much what most breweries in South Africa have. They have a panel where they can switch stuff on, they can read temperatures, they can set the temperatures up and down. So you're controlling stuff, but you have no visibility on what's happening if you're not there. These things break as well. It's technology that was replaced in the industry a long time ago, in industrial brewing. So mostly for the guys that don't know, what you would have in industrial brewing is something like that, where you have a central PLC or central programmer that collects inputs from instruments and gives outputs to valves and pumps and do so. All the stuff you do manually, this thing kind of takes a reading in and executes something on the outside. And traditionally, it's very, very expensive. Very, very expensive to do this and to think. And it is also you have to admit, it's probably the least necessary thing for a small craft brewery, but there is a lot of value to be added. So I have a panel like this, and I very much want one like that. So I can go on to the next slide. So this kind of what is a PLC? Just to give you a little bit of where we're going, is that it takes inputs, outputs, field devices, it switches something and you see it on the screen. You see it on the computer screen, a control room in a big factory, whatever. That's how you communicate with this thing in the middle. You go to the next slide. The limits of these systems is that you cannot really upgrade that panel as it is there. It is there. They are cheaper and simpler to use. PLC controllers require input-output cards, screens. There's a lot of things that go with that to make it expensive. But that's also because we are living in the older times and we are behind on things. The average man now in South Africa isn't really that costly compared to the rest of the world. And that's why software and stuff are still all lacking. And for me, automation is the last big frontier of the craft brewing process, and where you can actually make a difference and do something new. So you can go to the next slide. So what's on the market, right? So we go through this and we say this PLC thing, it looks scary. It's like I don't know anything about it. Everybody knows a brew guy or a small little automation device that controls all kinds of stuff. That is a PLC. And in the last kind of like couple of years, things have become such that we are able to provide PLCs that are affordable, and they give you so much advantages compared to the traditional way of controlling stuff. So there's all of it doesn't come with just German engineered parts. There are many good suppliers of valves in China. There's some instruments you can get from China. So it doesn't just mean when you say a PLC, you're looking at industrial automation or industrial stuff that costs 25,000 Rand for a temperature probe. There are alternatives, just like there are alternatives for PLC. So you can go to the next slide. So what's another part of that the PLCs bring is you have to have some type of interface with it, right? And traditionally, a screen in a factory is something that's not accessible, it doesn't see. These new PLCs, they come with software where essentially your browser on your phone and your computer become the HMI screen. So it's something you already have. The PLC lives there, but a big part of the expense and the cost of having a screen, having a touch screen to interact with, all of that gets taken up if you are using something like CodeSys to interact with it, right? And that's something that, like, if you don't know that exists, or you don't have somebody punting the idea that this stuff exists, then it's just another cost that adds up to something that I don't want. Where there are all of this stuff. So it's on a browser. It can be adapted to show fermentation charts, brew logs. You can pull them into history. With PLCs, you get the ability to go back and see what happened. You have the ability to trend stuff. You can't trend from a controller that I showed earlier. You can't trend the temperature of this tank. What actually happened when I wasn't there? With something like CodeSys and Vector, you can train all of that. You can build your brew logs in there. You can add data. It's easy. It's stored. You can easily go back to it. A lot of people can access it from anywhere if it's connected to the internet. So then you can also add kind of like another custom tracking to it. Or if there's some kind of feature that you want from your software, you can add that to it. And that's kind of where the next slide is going. It's just giving a small example of what you can do with a cake washer if you go this route. So next slide. So we started with this, totally manual, explained, no training, no nothing. I don't know if the operator is doing this correctly. Is he opening the last CO2 push? Did he do it with air this time? Screw up the beer? There's nothing there's no way of knowing that it worked out. The next step up from that is this, where you have electrical panels and buttons and so on and so on, but there's no PLC, there's no interface that you can pull off unique stuff from it. So this works and it definitely is a step up, but it's not where we should be going. So go to the last slide. So if you build just a normal cake washer, and the kind of like our idea for it is that when I wash, a simple example is when I wash my cake most of us have a cake number on it, right? We number our cakes so we can track them and see where to go. Just a little thing you can do with the software is add the ability to enter the cake number when you wash it, right? So you know when that cake was last in the brewery, when was it last washed. That same thing can be adapted for the guy who is putting it out to the warehouse and all of that. And if you have that central PLC system, you can adapt that to all of these stuff. So it's just a small little example, but it might be for a big brewery like Devil Speak or so on, you know, that it's a massive thing. Keep buying when season comes. If you're growing, you need more kegs, right? You need more fermentation tanks and more kegs. And you know, I've seen guys trying to forecast how many containers of kegs they need to buy. And then you go to the boss, and the boss is like, I know we're going to do very little simple, but I'm not spending this. I'm not one. And you need to be able to prove stuff. You need to be able to prove that it's possible. And it's happening. And this is kind of like part of little things that you can put to that software that doesn't necessarily have to go with the initial controller. It's something you can build in if you want. And then we are looking to provide something standard for somebody that doesn't want it. So I think you can go on to the next slide if there is one. So if you have that one keg washer, and it has a PLC in it, and if you connect it correctly and you use it wisely and you use it in a craft sense, not in an industrial automation sense, then you can control that same PLC can control your fermentation tanks. That same PLC can control your brewing plant. You can see the temperatures, you can track temperatures, you can see when the pumps were running and they were not. You can take an every chart and put that in so that when my brewer's on his phone adding the gravities for the day, I can go and see what's going on. I don't have to get a WhatsApp message in the morning showing what's going on with the charts. It's easy, it's always there, it's backed up. So there are many things to consider when doing this, and I guess the real talk is just to introduce you guys to the idea that there are cheaper alternatives than just going for Chinese panels or panels that use old technology. There is something else out there, and we are trying to make it affordable and make it work within the industry. So that's it. That's all we talk is quick and easy. But do think about this when you are buying new equipment and you want to upgrade your brewery. Think of the software and the uses it can have for you. Yeah.
All right. So what are you using as a processing base? Arduino or Raspberry?
No, you can.